Welcome to Dare to Soar with your host, Dr. RC. Dr. RC will empower, encourage, and strengthen you. She will help you to soar to your highest potential while instilling hope. Please welcome the host of Dare to Soar, Dr. RC.
Hidden in plain sight, daring to soar against human trafficking. That is my topic of discussion for this Saturday morning. And by the way, let me say good Saturday morning to each and every one of you. I am so excited that you all decided to join me on this Saturday morning. You could be spending that time in any way that you choose, but guess what? You decided to join and tune in to Dare to Soar. Oh, I am so excited that you decided to join with me in your space where courage meets compassion and awareness leads to action. January is National Traffic Prevention Month, National Human Traffic Prevention Month. A time to set aside just to acknowledge a crisis, but to also interrupt it. You see, human trafficking is not rare, it is not distant, and it is not always obvious. And let me say that again, it is not always obvious. It is often in plain sight. It is in our schools, in our neighborhoods, in our workplaces as well. It is in online spaces. I never thought that we would have to say that. It is in online spaces. We are here to illuminate that truth, center humanity, and empower prevention. Because why? It is pervasive, it is passive, but awareness is about prevention as well. And with that, I want to be able to share how we can protect that space. Welcome to Dare to Soar once again. And of course, I am Dr. RC. Welcome, welcome, one and all. Now, whether you're in your cars listening or just around your homes doing your daily chores, get that cup of coffee, that tea, or just that cool drink that you're enjoying. I want you to take the opportunity to tune in, get those notebooks ready, and enjoy what I'm going to share with you. Now, this information may be sensitive, but I promise you, the information that I'm sharing with you this morning is going to be enlightening. It is going to be something that you will be able to reflect on a bit later and take notes while you're doing that. You know, I always like to tell each and every one of you, take those notes because I always like to give you information that you can reflect on later. Now, with that being said, allow me to go ahead and get started. Now, before we can prevent what we know, I like to provide understanding. I want to be clear and accurate in the information that I share without providing distortion. Human trafficking is one of the most misunderstood crimes in our society today. And that misunderstanding is this: it is dangerous because confusion creates gaps, and those gaps are about exploitation in the lives of individuals that it impacts. It starts with the truth. And I'm here to provide that truth to each and every one of you today. Human trafficking uses force, it uses fraud and coercion as well. Yes, I did say coercion for the purpose of labor and commercial sex. I want to slow it down just a little bit, if you will. You see, every word matters. It forces you to look at the physical violence, the restraint, or the threats as well. Fraud looks like false promises. It looks like what someone may promise what they can do. It may look like jobs that they may offer, but it also looks like manipulation and the coercion, the fear, the debt, the isolation, or even dependence. And here's the critical part that people may misunderstand. And get this, you see, human trafficking does not require transportation, and some may feel like it does. But I want to be clear about that information. Someone does not have to be moved across borders to be human trafficked. It can be in cities and states for human trafficking to occur. Human trafficking can happen in the same neighborhood. Yes, Dr. RC did say that. I want to be clear about that because I don't want you to have any misconceptions. It can happen in school zones as well. I myself, by being a social worker, have seen this firsthand. Sometimes it can happen in the same home. Yes, that is correct. In the same home. That's why I say so often that I want you to remember this. Trafficking is not about transportation, it's about exploitation. Forms of human trafficking shows up in multiple forms, and all of them involve stripping away an individual's choice for safety and dignity. Did I make that clear? Let me say it again. It involves an individual's choice of safety and dignity. You see, sex trafficking involves forcing and manipulation and coercion someone into commercial sex. Oftentimes, it involves grooming. And if you've never heard that word, I want to go a bit deeper into this. It's about emotional dependency and psychological control, and may involve exploiting as well as pornography and survival of sex as well. It's about the critical truth of it all. You see, if a person is under 18, it's about force, fraud, and the coercion does not need to be proven. No, it does not. I know oftentimes there are so many misconceptions, but I don't want to get ahead of myself. I want to dig deeper into that a little bit later as I'm touching and going step by step with this because I want you to get it clearly. Which brings me to one of the most important points of this entire episode. You see, there is such a thing as a child who consents. Let me be very clear, and I need everyone listening to hear this. You see, children cannot consent to commercial sex. Ever, 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 ever. Any commercial sexual exploitation of a minor in human trafficking. No exceptions. There are none. No justifications. No alternate language. I know sometimes it is a misconception and individuals try to turn and twist wording around, but there is none. Words matter. And when we use phrases like child prostitute, when we shift the blame onto child instead of naming the crime, that child is not choosing. That child is being exploited. There are laws, there are processes that goes into place. And did I say laws? There are laws. And when we get the language right, we get the responses correct as well. I want to be very detailed about that. Then there's labor trafficking. And that labor trafficking happens when individuals are forced or coerced to work under abusive or exploitive conditions. That includes agriculture, construction, restaurants or hospitality, factories, domestic work as well, or even caregiving roles. You see, people may have the misconception or have an understanding about underpaid or not paid at all, threatened, even deportation. And I know many of you may have even heard about that by being threatened about being deported, forced to work for excessive amount of hours also, isolated from people about this communication. I want to pause right there because I do have a bit more to share about this, but I'm going to let you hold on to that. We'll be right back after this commercial break. I know I've given you a lot, but I'm going to dig deeper right after this commercial break. Don't go away. Dr. RC does have more to share on this topic.
Dr. RC will share extraordinary resources and services that promote educational success as well as making a difference in the lives of all social workers as well as the lives of children, adolescents, and teens of today. She will have open discussions addressing many of the issues that we face about our youth and how being employed in the uniquely skilled profession of social work for over 18 years has taught invaluable lessons through her personal experiences. She will also provide real-life facts, examples, and personal stories that will confirm that why serving as a child advocate is extremely beneficial when addressing the needs of the whole child. Listen live to Dare to Soar, Saturdays 10 a.m. Eastern, as Dr. RC will provide thought-provoking information that will empower, encourage, and strengthen students, families, and communities across our nation. You can also visit her at soarwithkatie.com.
Welcome back once again. Oh, did I say good Saturday morning to you all? Oh, well, if I didn't, good Saturday morning. I am so excited about you all returning. Remember to like, subscribe, and share. Oh, I'm so excited to share about this topic. Although this is National Human Trafficking Awareness Month, this is something that is ongoing and constantly. Especially, I am in the state of Georgia. We are a top tiered state because, and why? Let me tell you why. Dr. RC is going to share. Atlanta has an NBA, NFL team. We have so many caveats here that's exciting draw. We have an airport that is top tiered as well. That is a draw to this particular topic in itself. When you go through the Atlanta airport, we have a message that talks about human trafficking. And that's not something that's exciting, but it is something that is a warning. And I just want to put that out there. But I don't want to draw away from the topic at hand because I do have more to share and I want to share this with you. As I draw back into the topic, hidden in plain sight, and that's why I wanted to put that out to you because it is hidden in plain sight as I go back in and delve back into the topic. So as I draw back into it, let me go back to domestic servitude. This is a form of trafficking as well, which is often hidden behind closed doors. Did I say that, guys? Did you catch that? Hidden in plain sight behind closed doors. And what does it look like? I'm so glad that you asked that question. It looks like this. It's lived in workers who cannot leave, confiscated identification. And I know that you're saying, well, Dr. RC, that doesn't happen right now in 2026. Even though we have come into this 21st century, one would think that it does not happen. Oh, absolutely, it does happen right now. Confiscated identification, no access to money or rest, outside contacts. And then it's the emotional and verbal abuse as well that is still occurring. It's framed as family expectations. This is an exploitation, not helped, no culture, no kindness that does occur. Imagine if you're coming from a different country and you're trying to get yourself started and you have no idea how things work. So if you frame it in that way, then you get where I'm coming from in that. I don't want to dig that deep, but I just wanted to paint a picture for you so you will have an understanding. That critical framing is something that I wanted to share with you. You see, that human trafficking, that part of it thrives when we think that it doesn't. And I wanted to give you that caveat. It thrives when we assume victims will. They don't speak up for themselves. They don't know how to speak up for themselves. They don't know how to fight back. They're too afraid to run away. They don't know how to ask for help. But you see, exploitation often works because it slowly removes their choice until they feel like their consent has been taken away from them. And that is why awareness is optimal. It is not protective. And let me give you a little bit of reflection here. It's about exploitation. Once you understand that, you start seeing the signs more clearly. When they have an open door of understanding, then they can move. Then they can listen a bit more clearly and carefully and be able to protect their own intentions. And that understanding is that I'm not alone. I can survive this. I can save my life because I know that someone else is trying to save my life as well. And then there becomes disruptors, and they know that I can be fearless and be able to move away from this. You see, one of the greatest tools about traffickers is relying on the misinformation. And that's what they prey on, not just the lies and the myths. We often repeat this and stop questioning them. And that's what they rely on. They don't want to be questioned because when the questions happen, then that's their greatest fear. When someone comes in to question what they're doing, that's their greatest fear. And information and awareness is powerful. And every myth we believe creates blind spots where exploitation can hide. So we have to break up those situations. So in this segment, we're going to name the myths clearly and replace them with life-saving facts. And that's what I want to do next. Trafficking only happens in big cities. Trafficking only happens in big cities. Trafficking is someone else's problems. No, it is all of our problems. And that's where we're going to break this up. The truth is, trafficking does not follow population size. It absolutely does not. It follows vulnerability and opportunity. That's what the trafficker preys on. Now, here's a fact. Trafficking happens in rural, suburban, and urban communities. Oh, my dear friends, my dear Dare to Soar followers, it occurs near highways and truck stops in agricultural areas and small towns where everyone knows everyone. Trust me when I tell you, I've been in this field for over 2 decades and I have seen a lot. I'm not going to tell you that I've seen it all because as long as I keep living and breathing, I'm sure that there's more to see. And suburban, where invisibility is mistaken for safety. But see, critical insight, believing it doesn't happen here is exactly what allows it to happen there. But here's a myth. Victims will ask for help. This myth is especially dangerous because it places the responsibility on the victim instead of the community. I want you to let that sink in for a minute. But let me give you a fact. You know, Dr. RC always likes to bring something around to you. You see, many victims are groomed, and they are. They're manipulated and emotionally controlled long before exploitation becomes visible. You see, victims may believe the trafficker cares about them. That's what they want them to believe. They want them to feel shame or fear because that's about retaliation. Worry about being blamed and criminalized. Be dependent on the trafficker for food and shelter or protection. They prey on these things because that is how they reel them into their world, to make them feel as though you need me. You need me because no one else cares about you, or no one else is going to care about you or care for you like I'm going to care for you. But here's the critical truth. Silence does not mean safety. Silence often means survival. But here's another myth. You know, I like to give you a myth and then I want to give you a fact. It always involves kidnapping, but it doesn't start out that way. Once again, remember, I said it's about grooming and reeling them in, two interchangeable things. This is one of the biggest myths, and it is reinforced by myths and media. It truly, truly is. I've seen it happen. I've seen it in action. Most trafficking does not begin with kidnapping. It often begins with someone offering love and attention or belonging. Picture this. Someone trying to get away from a situation where they're feeling unloved, or they've been through a difficult situation, or they're feeling unhappy. They may have been through a job situation, or they've may been a difficult family situation as well, or a crisis, or instability, or unstable moment in time. That relationship reels them in because their mind is not thinking clearly. And just at that split second, here comes that grooming that takes place. That individual who's sitting back in the wings and saying, here I am. I'm going to take care of you. You don't have to worry about them anymore. I'm here to take care of you. I'm going to let you hold on to that. Think about that for a moment. It's time for another commercial break. I'll be right back after this commercial break. Don't go away.
Author, radio show host, and coach John M. Hawkins reveals strategies to help gain perspective, build confidence, find clarity, achieve goals. John M. Hawkins' new book, Coached to Greatness: Unlock Your Full Potential with Limitless Growth, published by iUniverse. Hawkins reveals strategies to help readers accomplish more. He believes the book can coach them to greatness. Hawkins says that the best athletes get to the top of their sport with the help of coaches, mentors, and others. He shares guidance that helps readers reflect on what motivates them, rediscover and assess their core values, philosophies, and competencies, find settings that allow them to be the most productive, and track their progress towards accomplishing goals.
Welcome back once again, guys. Oh, of course, this is me, Dr. RC, and this is Dare to Soar. I was giving you, right before the commercial break, that grooming. I wanted to paint a picture for you because I want to be clear about the information that I'm sharing. Yes, I did share with you Hidden in Plain Sight, and it truly is. Daring to Soar Against Human Trafficking. This is National Human Trafficking Month. I wanted to highlight this, but this is something that is ongoing. This is something that is national. And I shared with you about the state of Georgia and how we fit into the whole scheme of things. There are other states, and I didn't break down the states categorized as to how each state falls. I didn't want to do that during this session, but that's something that you can certainly look up at your leisure. But I want to go back into that. I want to hit some critical points as I just shared with you a fact. But here's a critical point. Most victims know their trafficker. I said most, I didn't say all, so I want to be clear. I don't want you to go and say, well, Dr. RC said all. Nope, that's not what Dr. RC said. I said most, so I want to be clear about that. That trafficker may be a romantic partner. It may be a friend or an acquaintance. And that acquaintance could be someone who just made you feel really comfortable. You know, you felt like you could trust that individual. But that's not for everyone. And I want to be clear about that also. It may have been a family member. It may be a trusted adult also. You see, trafficking is also and often relational before it becomes transactional as well. But here's one thing. I want to go back as I've been giving you facts and myths. I always got to give you a fact and then give you a myth as well. Here's a myth. It only affects girls and women. And you see how I smiled when I said that? Because I'm going to give you something on top of that. It only affects girls and women. The myth crashes thousands of victims and makes it hard for them to be seen or believed. Fact: human trafficking affects girls and boys, women and men, LGBTQ and youth, immigrants and refugees, individuals with disabilities. I can't tell you how many times or how often I hear this. And you know, I go through so many debates. I did say I was a social worker. I did tell you that, guys. And there are so many debates, and it's great debates. It's healthy dialogue. It's healthy conversations. But here's the critical reality of this: boys and men And I know some don't want to hear this, but you know me, Dr. RC. I have to speak truth to power when I come to you and sit here and talk to you about this. That's why I love doing this so much. Boys and men often are under identified and underrepresented. They are because of stigma, gender, expectations, and lack of screening. Now, I'm going to give you some data. You know, I like to bring my research to the table. According to data compiled by Polaris and international trafficking reports, and esteem 30 to 40%, did you hear me? 30 to 40% of identified human trafficking victims are male. Did you hear, Dr. RC? 30 to 40% of identified trafficking victims are male. I know that you're surprised, but it is truth. And this is something you can look up for yourself. I'm not giving you anything that I have not taken the time myself to look up, not to mention what I know to be factual by the work that I have done over 2 decades. It is factual. Far less likely to be screened and identified, referred to service compared to women and girls. And it goes under identified. Global data from the United Nations Office on Drugs and Crime further shows that men and boys are disproportionately represented in labor trafficking. I know that it's hard to believe. I know that you have to gasp and take a breath, but I assure you that what I'm sharing with you, it is true. But they are significantly underrepresented, and victims are identified and services system, largely due to harmful gender norms and assumptions about victimhood. Now, here's the truth that we don't talk about enough. It's all about the data. And we know when we don't report numbers, there's that underrepresentation. Many as 1/3 to nearly 40% of trafficking victims are males. I was giving you the numbers. I have to reiterate that because it's important, it's key. Yet boys and men are far less likely to be identified, believed, or even offered help. We always hear about women and young ladies. We see those numbers. Now, some may ask, well, Dr. RC, why? Because stigma tells them to be strong, to be confident, don't talk about it. We say the same thing to young ladies as well. And oftentimes, and I have seen this as well, that when our young ladies report, and that number is underreported because there's a disbelief when they share that information. I can't tell you how many times that young ladies have reported what is going on with them, that the response is disbelief. So it's almost like clenching your fist, and I'm using this because this is the example that you can actually see that they go into shutdown mode and they're not sharing actually what happens, and therein lies the trauma. And that's a whole nother show. And I can assure you, I'm going to get to that show at some point as well. But I want to get back to my males. The gender norms tell them about being strong. You're supposed to not talk about this because if you talk about this, it takes away from your manhood. And this is a true fact. And I'm sure that many of you listening, you've heard that story as well. And systems often fail to screen them all at all because of this. And when they hear this over and over, time and time again, this is why they're not reporting what has happened to them. But you see, when we don't look for our boys or our men, we don't protect them. So I have to ask, is that helping them or is that hurting them? I want you to ponder over that for a moment. And let me say it again. Is that helping them or is that hurting them? Is that making them stronger? Or I dare say, is that making them weaker? Because after all, we want our children to be healthy human beings. We want them to have healthy relationships. We don't want them to have to go through the trauma that they may experience. We know that life is going to happen, but we want them to be able to go through life and experience things in the most appropriate way. We want them to have nurturing and healthy relationships. Now we know that life is going to happen and experiences are going to happen, but we want them to be able to respond in the most appropriate ways also. That's not to say that they may not have times where they're going to have highs and lows. That's to be expected because that is life. That's a part of life. But we want them to be able to deal with life also. That's my just caveat and my little soapbox. So, why are these myths so dangerous? These myths don't just confuse people, they delay interventions as well. They cause adults to say, that doesn't fit the picture. Think about that. That doesn't look like victims. That would have said something. We don't want them to shut down on us. And in that delay, exploitation continues. So here are some key takeaways. Trafficking hides behind our assumptions. When we replace myths with facts, we widen the lens, sharpen our awareness, and strengthen our ability to protect. And protection always begins with truth. That's what we want to do. So, who is the most vulnerable individuals in this whole process? Who are they? You see, we want to understand what the risk is without blaming. Don't want to blame, we want to understand. We want to see the vulnerability through a protective lens. We want to be able to talk about the vulnerability. We want to be able to see it clearly by asking something from the very start to have that understanding. It's not about poor decision making, and it is not about the look of intelligence. We want to have them to be strengthened throughout this process. We want to be able to see what the vulnerabilities are. We want to have and give them nourishment in their results. We want to be able to meet their needs. And if we're not meeting their needs, what are the unmet needs as well? We want to be able to disrupt those things as well. We want to be able to create systems. And if there are systems in place, we want to create systems, put systems in place so we can create gaps in their systems and build connections within those systems. And traffickers are experts at identifying those systems. That's why those grooming mechanisms come in place. You see, when populations are increased, it decreases the risk. And then when we look at our runaways and our homeless students or our families, that's when those groomers step in. That creates opportunities for them to step right in there and connect the dots. That's their gateway. That's their open doors for them. When we think about our youth and our runaways who experience homelessness, they're among our most individuals who are at risk and often the most misunderstood as well. And why, some may ask? Why? Because they have an immediate need. What are those immediate needs, Dr. RC? I'm so glad that you asked that. The immediate need is food, shelter, safety. Those are the immediate needs that they have when we do that. Why? Because they have a limited access to a trusted adult. Why? Because, as I said, they have run away. They're homeless. It's increased exposure to survival strategies. It's fear of systems, past experiences as well. The critical truth of this all. Many trafficked youth do not run towards danger, no. But the critical truth is this: trafficked individuals They're running away. They're running away from it all. And we know this. So they want to know, how can they get help from all of this? How can they get help? So that's when we're there to step in. And then when we talk about our youth that are in foster care as well, once again, our youth and our foster care, their vulnerability is there as well. We want to reach out to them also. We know that they've been through multiple changes, multiple placements, disruptive attachments. So their trust issues there, they're feeling abandonment, their desire for stability. They want to be able to control their own situations. And it's difficult for them to be able to control their situations also. It's important for them to have that stability. So a human trafficker, that is their opportunity to step right in and be able to control that situation as well. So let me give you just a little bit of insight for that. That insight is this: when stability is missing, manipulation can feel like security. I want you to hold on to that. It's time for another commercial break. I'll be right back.
Did you know that your beliefs create your entire reality, but it's the subconscious beliefs that do most of the creating? Belief shifter and life coach Shiraz can help you identify those limiting beliefs and eliminate them, often in a single session.
Like, it was almost instant. Like, I had relief right away.
Creating better health, relationships, careers, and finances. Let Shiraz help you step out of safety and into awareness.
Definitely something's happening. It's like a flow inside. It feels good.
Whether in person or online, Shiraz provides personal coaching, belief shifting. Visit Shiraz at energeticmagic.com or call 416-529-7429. Energetic Magic. Find your greater happiness. Be well. Be aware. Be magical.
Welcome back once again, guys. Oh my goodness. I know that this is a heavy conversation, but guess what? It is a needed conversation. It is needed because this is something that is ongoing and individuals are truly experiencing this. I felt it was a critical need to share this information. I don't want to dig too deep into the sidebar of it because I want to give you this critical information. Remember to like, subscribe, and share. But did I say this was Dr. RC? And this is Dare to Soar. I am so excited that you have decided to join me on this Saturday morning. I want to delve right back into this conversation. Students experiencing poverty or housing instability. This is a trafficker's dream as well. You see, economic hardship creates urgency, and urgency can be exploited. Yes, it can. One may not think so. Let me tell you why. Students feel pressured to contribute financially. One may not think so, but they do. So oftentimes children take on the needs or the pressures of their parents. Sometimes parents don't think that their children hear what's going on with them, but they do, unfortunately. And they do feel that pressure. They feel that pressure because when they go to school, to their school learning environments, they want to be just children. They want to feel that, you know, that warmth, if you will, for lack of a better terms, with their peers. They don't want to be ostracized. They don't want to feel different. And if they have siblings, they feel like, and if they're an older sibling, they want to take up the slack that that other child has. They don't want to feel that pressure. So what do? They feel that they have to take up that void with that child. So they feel as though they have to care for that sibling. Now, oftentimes, were they asked to take that responsibility? No, but that's just the weight that they're feeling, caring for that sibling. So this is what they do. The lack of consistency, the supervision. Another part of that is that if a parent has to work 2 or 3 jobs, and we know in this economy that's happening right now, it's easy for a child to slide into systems that may not be the best because a parent has to work, a parent has to take care of their family. So children may unintentionally go in a different direction. Now, is it optimal? Of course not. Absolutely not. Is it intentional? Oftentimes, no, it is not. But this is the world that we're living in right now. So those are the pressures that our children are dealing with, and they get swayed. They're feeling as though this is a better way to help my family, to alleviate the pressure on my mom or my dad or both, depending on what the situation is. So I just wanted to put that out there for food for thought. So that is how at times traffickers can ease their way into the family dynamics as well. But just reframing that for critical framing, it's not about bad choices, it's about limited choices. And I want to put that caveat in there. But then I want to go into also about survivors of abuse or neglect as well. Prior trauma increases risk, not because survivors are weak, but because it reshapes trust and boundaries also and self worth. Survivors may normalize harmful behavior, and they do, struggle to recognize coercion, feel undeserving of safety. If they've been through a trauma, they don't feel as though they're deserving of it. Be more responsive of affection and validation also. But I want to give you some key points on top of that because the reality is there are traffickers often mirror the patterns of past abuse. Why? Because it's familiar to them. They can feel safer to the unknown. But you see, individuals feeling and belonging of love or financial stability, there is one of the most important points to understand because it applies to more people than we realize. Traffickers often exploit. They exploit the loneliness, the desire to be seen or valued, the financial stress as well, the dreams of independence or success. They don't start with control. It doesn't. It may appear or seem that way, but it doesn't start off that way. But I want to give you some insight on top of that too. I always have to bring it around so you can have clarity. Traffickers play on unmet needs, not weakness. I want you to get that on the unmet needs, not the weakness. But then when we look at reframing this, if we only look at vulnerability in certain kinds of people, we definitely miss the real vulnerability. Can show up in any zip code. And I want to be clear about this because oftentimes there is a myth, and I didn't put this in my myths, but I want to bring this back around because sometimes individuals feel, and it's not everyone, and I want to be clear about that piece too. Individuals some may feel, well, it's not going to happen in my neighborhood or it wouldn't happen in my neighborhood. But let's be real about this. It can happen in any neighborhood. And now I want to say that again. In any neighborhood, any school, any family, it doesn't have a designation. It does not. So the question is not, why didn't I see it coming? I want to say that again. It's not a question of why didn't I see it coming. The better question is this: what need went unmet and who noticed it first? Who noticed it first? Sometimes they're telltale signs. Sometimes they'll telltale signs. There are. Sometimes. Protection begins when we stop asking, what's wrong with them? And start asking, what support is missing? And how can we show up sooner? Because when communities, and I said communities, meet needs early, traffickers lose power. And that's what it's all about. It's about power. They look How can they get in to gain that power? And that's what they want. They want to gain that power. Seeing what others missed, attention, and act of protection. We want to protect our communities. We want to protect our children. We want to protect individuals that may fall into a trafficker's hand, a trafficker's mindset. You see, human trafficking rarely announces itself. You see, it whispers. And it whispers because remember when I shared with you all earlier, they are groomers. They sit, they wait, they want to groom individuals for this. And it is often hidden, or it hides behind behaviors we're tempted to label as attitude, rebellion, or acting out. Today, I want us to shift how we see these signs, not as problems to punish, but as messages asking to be noticed. And I want us to notice that. I want us to look at key signs we cannot ignore, sudden changes in behavior or appearances, because that's what it's all about. Signs, behaviors. I want you to pay attention to how someone may change quickly and without explanation. This can include new clothing, styles that feel sexualized or out of character, dramatic shifts in a mood or a personality, increased secrecy around a phone, online activity. Because remember, I shared with you in the very beginning, it happens online. Someone may be withdrawn from their friends or their families or activities once enjoyed as well. These are all things that are actually occurring, that actually happen. The way they behave and communicate with someone, sudden change, if they become defiant. Now, let me be clear. Dr. RC is not telling you that everyone exhibits the same and these warning signs that I'm giving you. Each individual may be different. Some may have all of these things. Some may have a few of these things. But I'm giving you just some key warning signs that are possibilities. Here are some others. Some older or controlling boyfriends or even girlfriends. Yes, I said girlfriends as well, because that can happen. This is one of the most common red flags and one that is most overlooked as well. A partner who always insists on knowing your whereabouts, always wants to know where are you going, who you're going with. Excessive texting, calling, monitoring your every movement. Also, discouraging relationships with your peers or your families, needing to know your every movement, speaking for them. You can't answer or respond for yourself, making decisions for an individual. Then you have to think about the critical reality of it all. Control is often disguised as love or protection. I'm doing this because I love you, because I really care about you. When you have that kind of bantering conversation, or the loyalty. If someone is isolating another person under the name of care, that is not romance. That's what we call grooming. Did you guys hear me? If someone is isolating another person under the name of care, that is not romance. That is grooming. I want to be clear about that. Unexplained money or gifts, multiple phones. When resources just suddenly appear without a clear source, it deserves attention, not an accusation. Let me give you some red flags also. Expensive items that you just can't explain, or you just can't reasonably afford. Now, once again, I have to say, it's not everyone or everything. These are just some telltale signs for some. New phones that you don't want adults to see. cash, no explanation, gifts tied to expectations or pressures as well. But here's a key reminder. You see, traffickers often use material items to create dependency or obligation. And that is a fact. They use material items to create dependency and obligation. And then I wanted to share something about school because I have to keep sharing. I work in the school system as a social worker. This is something that we often notice when our students oftentimes are missing for several days. And we hear a lot of things from other students, and it sends up so many red flags for us. So many red flags. That chronic absence, that social withdrawal are our telltale signs. Traffickers thrive on isolation. They want to isolate our kids. They want to isolate them. They isolate them by having them have a high number of absences or tardies. Their grades begin to fall. They become disengaged. They begin to pull away from trusted adults, and they avoid places where help might be offered. And the critical point is that isolation is not accidental. It is a true strategy. Hold on to that. I'll be right back after this commercial break.
Mike Zorek, a three-time California state champion in Greco-Roman wrestling at 114 pounds. Mike, blind since birth, was born in Hartford, Connecticut. He was a six-time national placer, including 2 seconds, 2/3, and 2/4. He also won the Veterans Folk-Style Wrestling twice at 152 pounds. In all these tournaments, he was the only blind competitor. Nancy Zorek, a creative spirit whose talents have taken her to the stage and into galleries and exhibitions in several states. Her father, a commercial artist who shared his instruments with his daughter and helped her fine-tune her natural abilities, influenced her decision to follow in his footsteps. Ms. Zorek has enjoyed a fruitful career doing what she loves. Listen Saturday mornings at 12 Eastern for the Nancy and Mike Show for heartwarming stories and interesting talk.
Welcome back once again, guys. Oh, this hour has gone by so quickly. As I wrap up the show today, I want to just share one thing before I go into my close. As you notice, I have on the color blue. Well, of course, each week I have on a different color. But National Human Trafficking Awareness Month, you wear the color blue. I want to just share just quickly about the color blue. The color blue means protection and safety. That's why the color blue stands out. So I'm asking each and every one of you, if you have an opportunity, wear the color blue. The color blue, protection and safety, trust and stability, hope and healing, and global solidarity. That's the purpose for the color blue during National Human Trafficking Month. So any day for the rest of the month, if you have an opportunity, definitely try to wear the color blue. So as I dive right back in, I was speaking about and the school system, and I definitely wanted to share that with you because it's a trafficker's dream when we talk about that. So going back into that, I want to share with you about the fear and the shame. This is one of the most telling signs, and the sign is the easiest to miss. So we look for the fear and getting into trouble, the reluctancy, the answer to questions, repeating phrases, the signs. When traffickers try to pull our students away from us, they want to isolate them. So we have to really hone in and focus and pull them back in and pull them into security as well, because we don't want to lose them. We definitely don't want to lose them. We don't want to lose anyone to trafficking, but we definitely don't want to lose our students as well, because it's about their quality of life and them growing into whole adults for the future, because this is the future of the individuals that are growing up, who are going to be leading the world on to the next century. And that's what we want as well. So I have a call to action for you all. Up until this point, we've talked about what trafficking is, who is the most vulnerable, the warning signs, and we cannot ignore them. But awareness not alone is it's just not enough. If we have the knowledge, where does it lead to? The vulnerability. This segment is called to action because prevention is not abstract. Prevention is something that we practice every day. For prevention, we have to teach consent, about boundaries, online safety, the protection of it all as well. It starts with the language. This means teaching our children they have the right to say no. And we have to teach them that. Teach ourselves that as well, repeating it. It's okay to say no, reinforcing that their body, time, and their voice matters, helping our youth to recognize manipulation, the pressure, and about grooming, especially online as well. We know our children spend a great number of hours online talking about honesty, about social media, about gaming platforms, private messages as well, critical insights. Silence does not keep children safe. Skill building as well, building trusted relationships with youth. That's important. Create safe reporting spaces as well is important. We want them to know about that. Guys, I have asked, I've created a resource document, and I've asked that it be put up on my YouTube page for each and every one of you to utilize. But as I close out, here is the caveat. As we close this episode, I want you all to remember this. Human trafficking thrives in silence. It does. But it weakens in the presence of informed, compassionate, courageous people. And those individuals are you. You do not need a title to protect. You do not need protection or perfection to advocate. You simply need awareness and the willingness to act. Let this month move us beyond blue ribbons and social posts. Let us move toward real protection, real prevention, and real hope. Until next time, keep daring to soar, because someone's safety may depend on it. But always remember, never be afraid to elevate to new heights as you spread your wings and dare to soar. Thank you for your time. Thank you for spending that time with me on this Saturday morning. I appreciate each and every one of you so very much. Enjoy the rest of your weekend. I am Dr. RC, and of course, you have been listening to Dare to Soar.
This has been Dare to Soar with your host, Dr. RC. Come take a ride and soar to your highest level possible each week on Dr. RC's Dare to Soar.